on Dr. Seshni, consultant psychiatrist, and she's going to run us through mental health, and we're specifically going to be dealing with stigma. Good morning, Dr. Seshni, and welcome to Coffee Break.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for having me on your coffee break. And I do have my coffee at hand. I hope you've got yours as well. Fantastic. Cheers to you. So yeah, having this chat over a cup of coffee, it doesn't get better than this, Opoku.
Doesn't ever get better than
I
that.
know, I know. And yeah, how are you doing? How's everything going?
I'm fantastic. It's going great. Everything is fine.
That's
And
great. No, everything's going well also, and looking forward to just chatting about this coffee break. Yeah.
Now, what we're going to do, Dr. Seshni, this morning is that I'm going to let you do probably all the talking, except when something pops up and I need to ask you a question. Sometimes you say something, and then I want to follow up on what you're saying. The reason why is, stigmatizing mental health issues and mental health patients and all that is very rife. We know that that's what's going on, and we're all guilty in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask the first question, then you can shoot off. What is stigmatizing mental health patients and the mental health situation and everything? What is it, and how does it work out?
Yeah, very good question. So mental health, as you know, has been around for decades. People do go through mental health problems, but unfortunately what has happened is that there's been more focus on physical health. And especially as we've just come out of the pandemic, we know that people are more focused on physical health than mental health. And in terms of destigmatizing mental health, is what we are trying to do, and what the World Health Organization and World Mental Health Day has focused on for this year, 10th of October, as we've discussed previously, is about destigmatizing mental illness and looking at reducing the stigma. So what that means is, for example, if I've got diabetes or I've got high blood pressure, or the same for you, you wouldn't think twice to tell someone that whether it's a loved one, colleague, or saying it on radio, because a lot of people know about these physical health problems. So what we need to do now is with mental health, exactly what Oprah and Prince Harry were doing with their mental health series on Apple, is talking about mental health, normalizing it, and making it so that people can openly talk about their difficulties. Because as you know, the more and more we can talk about how we're feeling, what we are going through, what are the challenges, the easier it will be for each of us to get the help that we require or to help others. We will be there to listen to other people if we are on the receiving end of trying to help someone else. And it will definitely make things a lot better in terms of getting a holistic treatment approach for that person. Because people are so scared.
Continue, Dr. Seshni, sorry about that. I did say that I'm sorry, but I probably will be butting in from time to time.
Yeah, sure. I love that. I love it because it needs to be a conversation.
What are some of the ways we stigmatize mental health patients?
So we stigmatize them in so many different ways. Just the typical example I gave, where people don't feel comfortable to say, as if they've got diabetes or high blood, they can't say, or they don't feel comfortable to tell their family members, loved ones, colleagues, that they've got a mental illness like depression, schizophrenia.
Why is that? Why can't they say it?
Yeah. Before I get into why, let's just go through the different ways in which society has actually created this, because what you've opened is, a box full of information. Because we have, as society, we have, from the moment a person is in their family situation, certain cultures, we grew up in certain cultures. I'm sure your cultures are very similar to mine.
Yeah, my culture stigmatizes mental health patients a lot.
Exactly. And so you can't talk about it at the dinner table, or if you've had a bad day, when you go to the gym as a male, as a macho male, you're not supposed to talk about it. So there's two ways already in our families, in cultural settings, in certain other settings, and being a certain sex like a male, you're not supposed to talk about how you're feeling, which makes it so hard. So you've had a bad day, if you're going through like a divorce or relationship problem or some financial stress or even going through PTSD. How can you open up to your mate in the gym or someone that you regularly go out with, your soccer buddy? You can't, because it's not normal to be able to do that. It's not normal to talk about it at the dinner table. So there's two ways already we've identified. At the workplace, who's going to be able to comfortably say, okay, I can go to my workplace and I can tell them I've got bipolar affective disorder or I've got schizophrenia. We know that you are supposed to be able to tell them. We have occupational health, we have all these services available, these health and well-being boards and services. But how many of us will be able to actually go and tell our employees without thinking without thinking and not feeling that we're going to be discriminated? Because they're going to say,
get fired. You might even get fired.
Exactly. Unfair dismissal. And that has happened. There's lots of cases, legal cases, where people have unfair dismissal. So they might have said, oh, it's okay, we understand you've got a mental illness, but somehow they might have found a way to fire you. So unfair dismissal. What about in schools? Can children, our children, young, you've got young daughter in college. I've got three young kids in school, 12, 13, and 15, in university. And
unbelievable, isn't it?
I know. So would she feel comfortable, or would her friends feel comfortable talking about depression or stress or going through PTSD or OCD, anxiety? It's very hard. Even at schools, age 12, 13, 15, I can imagine with my kids, we try to talk to them about, mental health. They know a lot about it already. But, trying to get them to open up, talk about their feelings, it's difficult. So imagine in schools, even though there are like services available, they have the well-being groups, they have counseling services. In universities, I'm sure with your daughter, they've got counseling services. So there's so many ways in which we've actually created this stigma. So that's what I just wanted to say, that, and it's not just in these settings, it goes beyond that. It's in all community settings. It's in media. I spoke to someone in South Africa, and she said she came out, and she's, and a guy as well, they came out and they were gay. And in society already, we've created these discrimination, people's different morals and values, and different religions. So already it's so difficult for people to just open up. But it shouldn't be, because in religion, we know, in religion, in the Bible, in other religious books and scriptures, there's been talk of anxiety, of depression, and what spirituality obviously teaches you is that turning to spirituality will help, and leaving it in God's hands, if that's what you believe. I'm not here to preach, but it is in scriptures. It is in all the scriptures. It's in books, and it's not something that's new. So I don't know why. So I still don't know why people can't talk about it.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And you see, it's like in certain societies, in certain cultures, if you're shushed, you can't talk about it, even if you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the stigmatization, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then also, I know in certain cultures in Africa, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
That before you get married, they will investigate the other family, check out if there's any mental health situation there, or if there's anybody who's had mental health. And if it's found out that maybe your grandparents or your great-grandparents, one of them had mental health situation, that's it. You're not marrying into that family. So
are you serious? This is the first I've heard. I did not realize it was like that. Really, that is surprising.
Be serious in certain cultures. You can't be really serious in certain cultures, and then they won't allow you to marry into that. They forget about the fact that you love that person, and you both don't have mental health issues, and you can live together for the rest of your life. No, forget it.
Well, why? I mean, why would people go through such measures?
Good question. Why?
So again, it's the way we brought up. It's our culture. Society and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And you did ask the other question when we were talking about how we've created this and why there's
Yeah,
stigma. You also said, why do people themselves find it difficult to talk about mental health
exactly.
problems?
Yeah,
And for me, I feel as a psychiatrist, I'm so open about my feelings, and I feel comfortable to talk about them, and I feel safe, and I don't think that people should feel embarrassed and feel unsafe and feel threatened by talking about their feelings. When my mom passed away last year, and I mean, you saw me in tears. I went on radio, I went on TV in the UK, South Africa, and I spoke openly about how I was feeling, and I even burst into tears because that's how I am. I feel comfortable to talk about my feelings. And I think I didn't think, oh, how are people going to respond? Or obviously there would be those thoughts, but I didn't. I was going through such a difficult time in my life, and I felt that I needed to share this and draw on the support that I had, which I did. You were there. So many other people, hundreds of people, South Africa, UK, all over the world supported me, and which I was really grateful for. And I drew on that support on social media. I was very vocal about it, and it helped me get through that process of grief. And for me, I felt that, I didn't have to, I'm so resilient that if anything happens, I could just switch off and just carry on as normal. So that's how resilient I am. But what I told myself is that I wanted to go through the grief process. I wanted to go
yeah,
through the whole process. And I think when we have people like me and other people that can be vocal about their stories, that talk about their mental illness, like, the celebrities we have, like Kanye West talks about bipolar affective disorder. We've got Mariah Carey. We've got so many other people, Stephen Fry, and there's another person I'm trying to think of the name, and it's on the tip of my tongue. But there's so many
yeah,
people that have openly spoken about mental illness, and I think when we see people in such a vulnerable state and they are able to talk about it, that's where it starts. Where we can actually reduce the stigma and just show people that it's normal. We can normalize it. We can say it's okay not to be okay, and you can talk about how you're feeling without feeling that you're
yeah,
going to be criticized, discriminated against, ridiculed. You're going to be alienated. But I think
yeah.
it depends on who you are. It depends on your community. It depends on your occupation, or the
Yeah,
society
I
that
will
you are
agree
in.
with you on that because see, you are a consultant psychiatrist. You deal with mental health
Yeah,
issues. You've got patients, and you encourage them to speak up, to let known what's their and how they're suffering and what they're suffering. So I would assume that it would be quite easy for you to be able to express how you feel at any particular time. But with other people or people who are not in a position like yours or in Kanye's West position. I mean, these are rich celebrities. They don't care what you think about them. They will come out and speak their minds and all that. But there are certain people that feel, I would believe, that when they come out and
exactly.
speak, people are going to see them as, oh, cuckoo, they're going to stigmatize them. That's exactly what we're treating today.
Yeah.
Now, the next question I want to ask you is, how can we as a people help mental health patients get over their fear of stigmatization?
I think the more and more, there's so many ways. So it starts, I think it's the first thing to say, it's everyone's responsibility. It's not just me as a psychiatrist, it's not just you as a radio broadcaster and journalist, but it's everyone's responsibility that we all need to have this in our awareness that we need to be on the lookout. We need to be aware of the signs and symptoms of mental health problems. And this needs to be raised in all different settings, so different society settings, like in religious settings, in media, in schools, at the workplace. It needs to be, we need to talk about it openly. So we all have a duty of care to do it. So not just for ourselves, but for our society and communities and for humanity as well, because this is what the World Health Organization is working towards, and World Health Organization is for the whole world. So for the whole of humanity, we all have that role. So what we can do is raise awareness. So talk about it openly. Talk about mental health problems. If you know someone that's going through a difficult time, I think offering them your time just to listen, sending a message, a text, or an email, a social media message, or just picking up the phone and calling them, that can make a world of difference. So for us to be open to improve the communication, the lines of communication in different ways, and being there to just listen to someone. That's what the Dalai Lama says. He says, just being there for someone, showing them that compassion and listening to a person can help so much. It's not so much about what you say. A lot of people find it difficult, Opoku, to actually talk to someone. They say, oh, I don't know what to say to that person. They've just lost their mom, or I don't know what to do. She's going through such a hard time. She's got this relationship problem, or that person's just he's just taking drugs and he's drinking a lot. And
you mentioned something, and when you started, in this, you talked about religious institutions also helping and all that. But it might not be fair on them. But I would like to say that in certain cases, the religious organizations have made it even worse, because they are stigmatized, or they are deemed to have demons and stuff like that. They're being tortured by demons. Different religions and different denominations and this. Once you have mental health problems, for example, if you have bipolar, or you have anxiety and you talk to yourself, that, oh God, you're being possessed by a demon, and they want to smash it out or
exorcise. Yeah.
And then in certain cases it makes it worse, because then you're being forced to do certain things and all that. What would you say about that?
Yeah.
Disclaimer, we're not criticizing any particular religion or any particular sect or anything. We're just saying it in general, because we know that happens around the world.
Yeah. So in terms of religion, yes, if we think about religion, we know that what you've described, where if someone went to their pastor or priest or their guru or mulana, or sangoma, exactly. So they went to one of these religious organizations, and they told them what was going on and how they were feeling. Obviously, one of the things would be about this exorcism and thinking that they were possessed. But moving away from that, Opoku, that does happen. What I have found, and what I work in a hospital where we actually have chaplaincy services, and there's a church which I frequent, and I've always done since I've worked there on and off for a few years. And for me, it's about thinking about a person's spirituality. So as much as a psychiatrist, I treat people holistically. So we give them medication, psychology, social. I do believe, and there is evidence that suggests that spirituality plays an important part. And what I'm coming to, yes, what I'm coming to, and I think you've known me long enough to know that it's always about prayer. So a lot of people do believe in the power of prayer and praying for someone, and that miracles do occur and God answers prayers. So it's not about imposing your religion on any person. And some of our patients, some of the people dealing with mental health might not believe in prayer, but if they know someone that believes in spirituality, even that person, just praying for that person, there's evidence to say that that does help. And what I think I'm moving away from is talking about these difficult situations where you have these people in the spiritual settings where they do think, where they do make it difficult for you to open up. But on the other hand, there are places you can go and open up and just say, can you please pray for me? And on the hospital that I work, the chaplains, the reverends and the priests, they go and we've got from different faiths, and they go and they pray for the patients, and they spend time with them.
I do understand where you're coming from, and I think it's okay. In fact, it's very good for people to believe in certain spirituality and get prayed for by their priests or their pastors or imam or gurus. I totally understand.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to um, drive here is the fact that these people are kind of stigmatized by
yes.
their own spiritual setting, and so they find it difficult to to ask for help, because if it's a mental health problem, it is a mental health problem. But when it gets spiritualized and they tell you that your mental health problem is due to a demon possessing you, or because you sinned 10 years ago, that kind of thing, then it makes it quite difficult for you to be able to. That's where I'm driving at.
No, and I got that and I understood that, and that's what I'm saying. So we in the hospital, we've got chaplains in certain hospitals, in general hospitals. You've got people going and praying for people in the medical wards, or whichever wards, when someone dies or someone's at the end of their life, you get someone to go and pray with them. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, you get these places where they've actually created stigma. That's what you're saying. They've actually created stigma, and they've made it so difficult for any person even to draw on their spirituality, which is wrong. It's wrong. And what I'm saying is, what we need to do is, as much as we're raising awareness in all the other different settings, in hospitals, in our workplaces, in schools, in society, and in media, we also need to raise awareness in the spiritual settings. So, like the chaplains that work in our hospital, they are specifically trained to deal with mental health, and they've got an interest in mental health, and they know that people are going through mental health difficulties and challenges, and that is why they are there then to provide that spiritual input, and this is what we need.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
It is brilliant.
And it is fantastic. Once these spiritual people understand that it's a mental health problem, and then they help these people, with prayer and spiritual stuff, but not imposing on them, or not, impose is the wrong word, but not making them believe that they have these problems because something has happened, if something wrong's happened spiritually, then it makes it, you know what I mean? So it's really good that you have chaplains in certain places who help these.
Yes, and I think what you are saying is we need more of that. We need to reduce the stigma, especially
absolutely.
Because when someone's going through a difficult time, what do you turn to? Your spirituality. I attended a conference, and it was with GPs, and there was a very well-known oncologist specialist, so person that deals with cancer, and he was retired. I cannot remember his name, but he spoke about spirituality being more and more important in the future, and I do believe that. So as much as we are going to be, as doctors, prescribing medications and psychology and social interventions, and maybe alternative therapies like Ayurveda and homeopathy, massage, Reiki, light therapy like the Mahikari that I do, as much as we're going to be prescribing all different things, what we're going to be looking at is people are going to draw on spirituality more. Spirituality is going to be more part of the treatment. And that's what that's something that I'm very, very passionate about doing as well. And I think this wasn't planned the way we were going to talk, but it's good that you actually brought it up and you highlighted it, that there is stigma in the spiritual settings, and not only society, where we need people to be able to at their workplace say, I'm not well. If you belong to a certain church, a Methodist church, or you belong to a light center, or you belong to a Buddhist temple, or to a mosque, you need to be able to go to the spiritual leader and say, I'm going through a difficult time, and could you do a prayer for me, or could you help me and support me through this? And the people that you depend on, in these spiritual and religious settings, they should be open-minded, and they should be aware of these conditions, and not to the extent that where they're going to start talking about being possessed by demons, and that's something different. I think what we need to do is, as we've said, is destigmatize. We need to make it okay, it's okay not to be okay, and you can talk to people about how you are feeling.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was very that was very interesting, actually, that you brought up about the spirituality, and the light.
Because I've seen it in so many settings and so many different places where people have mental health problems, and they draw on their spirituality, like you just said, because when people are grieving or people are suffering, one of the things that they draw on is their own spirituality, and that helps.
Yeah.
But then they try to draw on that, and then they're bashed in the face, literally. I'm not saying, not literally, but bashed in the face by saying, oh, well, it's your fault because you did this, because this and that, you sinned, or you're being possessed by this. And then, then they don't know where else to go. But when these spiritual leaders understand that in spite of this, of spirituality, there is the mental aspect of a human being.
Yes.
And something can go wrong there.
Yes, and you know what?
The chaplains in your hospital, I'm sure they understand. They work in the mental health institution, and they know what it is like to have mental health problems. So they support these people with their spirituality, and that's fantastic.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. So since I've worked there, I've worked on and off for a few years, and I've always drawn on the spirituality aspect and tried to incorporate that for my patients. Obviously, because of patient confidentiality, I cannot discuss it, but I've seen improvements. And even recently, we've had success stories with patients. And it's so amazing to see when you do, if you are open minded, that's what I'm saying. So it's about treating people, being open minded, treating people with love and compassion, and also understanding that individual, because we all have our life stories. We've all gone through challenges, and one treatment might work for one person, another treatment might work for someone else, and it might be that spirituality doesn't work for everyone, but for where it does work for one person, then we need to think about incorporating that. And I think what you've just opened up this box of, like a Pandora's box of religion, is that it's important that people in these organizations need to not alienate someone. And it's not the first time I've heard about it, Opoku. I've heard of stories exactly like what you've said, and different, where people have been, maybe they've been abused by someone, or they've had, extramarital affair, or they've had, like they've been sexually assaulted, and then they've gone to these spiritual leaders and to their religious organizations, and then they've been alienated, or then it became public knowledge of whatever they've done, and
they've been made to feel as if they are the cause of the problem.
Exactly. And I think that's where it's wrong. It is wrong. We should not do that. I mean, obviously with religion, it's the religious organizations, and the pastors and the priests, they have all that knowledge of dealing with things. But I can say from my personal experience with the light, I do practice I'm born a Hindu, but I turned to Christianity. I practice Hinduism and Christianity, and then I do everything. I believe in all religions, and in Buddhism, in Islam, and Sikhism, in all, and Jainism, all of the religions, and I pray to Sai Baba as well. And with the Light Center, it's not a religion. Basically, it deals with light. It's you've heard of Reiki, where people talk about the light and about Jesus being the light and healing and helping people. So with the Mahikari, it's a Japanese tradition, and they say in order to purify our souls and connect our mind, body, souls, people develop impurities, and we have impurities all the time.
It looks as if we're digressing and we're moving away from mental health.
We are. No, but the reason why I want to say about this is, just quickly, is that with this organization, is that so basically it's based on, if you want health, prosperity, and happiness, and that's the principles. And they talk about gratitude and prayer and apology. And I know for a fact with this organization, when you go to them with I'm just making a comparison, and that's why I wanted to share it and not just talk about this organization, but when you go to them with your problems and difficulties, and I've personally done it, and I know people that have done it with mental health and whatever difficulties they've never been pushed away, and they've never been told anything else. They've just had a prayer done for them, and they've been listened to. So I think this is what I was wanted to say, is that there are certain organizations, not all organizations will be.
Not all organizations. I mean, we can't paint everybody with the same brush. Definitely not.
Yeah.
There are Christian organizations,
yes.
Muslim organizations, and Buddhist organizations all around the world who will listen to you,
yeah,
and they will help you, and they will,
yes,
point you in the right direction. They say a prayer for you and point you to the right direction where you get healing and you get your health will become better, and they will not stigmatize you. And we must make that clear.
yes.
It's not everybody who does that.
That's what I wanted to say. And then just drawing on that, and as we understood what happens in religious organization, goes back to society, it goes back to people, it goes back
exactly.
to what
it goes
we
back to everybody. Yeah,
it goes back
yeah.
to how I
There are
perceive.
people who will have compassion, people who will
Yes.
listen, and some people will stigmatize you. But I would dare to say that most people will actually listen to you and give you help.
I think the pandemic has helped because what we've learned is that people are a lot kinder, and that
Yeah.
they've actually become more open and more willing to help other people. And I think that is what we've seen. And I think now this is I think God has put us through this test and these challenging times, and for a reason, because a lot of us have become kinder. We are more open to helping other people, and it's not just us; it's the whole world. So I think
it is.
And I think it's really good.
We'll have to end here. So on this note,
okay,
we'll have to say thank you very much, Dr. Seshni, for joining us. And hopefully you'll join us again next week, and we'll
talk more about
other issues. Yeah.
More about mental health, destigmatizing it, and
okay, right.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Yeah, you as well.
Right. Okay.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Opoku. Bye.